that, I just want to hand it off to our wonderful ChanYang Team, to Ryuichi-san, so to share some words with you. So please help welcome Ryuichi.
Oh, wow, I thought Marina was going to give the sermon and then felt like let her continue and it would be okay. So I don't know how to come after that, but let me see. So thank you very much once again. Of course, Sunday is a beautiful day. I love that we start at 11 o'clock. Going to church, it's like, what time do you have to go? 9 o'clock. Oh my God. But once I have small children, and I always take them to the baby room. And I tell my wife, you go listen to the sermon. And now my babies are, they go to Sunday school, so now I have to go to the sermon. So it's very inspiring. Anyways, so I don't want to give a sermon. I want to share my how I came to work at CheonPyeong. It is a crazy place, and now it looks a little bit more appealing for young people. But when I went there, I was the youngest guy who ever worked in CheonPyeong for at least 6 years. I was the youngest. Manne is the word for Korean word for the youngest, and I was bossed around, educated well, loved a lot. But still, for me to go there was a big adventure, and I wanted to share that this is more like a message, I guess, for the elders. I'm sure, I hope you get inspired. I'm born in 1984, I'm 41 years old this year, and I'm not a second generation, but I am a, what is it called, a Jacob's child, yes. My mom has always been in the church. She received the 1800 blessing. This is a long time ago. I think, I don't know, I forgot the year anyways. She received the blessing. She was witnessed to by her older sisters. She has 3 other older sisters in the movement, and she received the blessing with her 2 other older sisters. But then her blessing broke. She was the youngest of the 8 siblings, so she was not spoiled, but really strong, right? Yeah, strong. So to survive all of those siblings right after the war, she was a strong woman, and she was really grateful for true parents. She really wanted to receive the blessing, but I think she couldn't really handle the blessing. Her husband was Korean, and the church leader was Korean, and she just couldn't really, she couldn't continue with it. She wanted a break. She wanted to, break the blessing, and it's quite different from now. At the time, it was a time of, not indemnity, but it was a wilderness course, right? Our elders at that time, breaking the blessing is a big thing. So my mother was outcasted from the church, even though she really wanted to be with true parents, but there was no she couldn't, and she understood. So even her siblings, her sisters, stopped talking to her. And so it is that kind of time, I understand. But she understood as well of her decisions. And she was working in the church, like a church company. Back then, she also really loved English. She really loved to understand English, so she speaks very fluent, no Japanese English pronunciation English. Her English is really good. It's pretty amazing for a Japanese lady not living overseas to get a perfect pronunciation. And she really studied hard, and she was working for the church as a travel guide. And I think she was going all around the world as a travel guide. I guess the world was smaller back then in 1980s. My father, who's British, he's very short, And my father is very short, and he's really he's a little bit embarrassed that he's short. So I don't know why he loves Asian women. He he was on a working business in Hong Kong. I think my father saw my mother twice, and so on the third time, different days, but in Hong Kong International Airport, because that time it was England. He said, "What's up?" And my mother was like, "Hey, hey." And you know what happens, right? So they got married soon after, and then they had myself, me, and my brother. My mother always could not leave the church. She could not leave True Parents. She understood True Parents were the truth, and she was moved by divine principles. She wanted to come back to the church, but she knew she was not qualified because she broke the blessing. And all of those years, as she was following my dad is in the mining business, American company, stationed in Asia mainly. So he would have to move countries every 1 year or so. And I remember just moving many different countries. I was born in South Africa, Johannesburg, because that's where my grandparents, my father's parents are. Even though they're English, they moved to South Africa. And since then I've been to several different countries. I've been to Africa, in Mozambique, in Kenya, in Europe, only Scotland and France, and in Asia, a lot in Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, America, a few places, Casper, Wyoming, and here also in Houston as well, and then Australia. So I went to all different kind of places, and I remember growing up that once we live in a country, one time I was speaking Indonesian, one time I was speaking Malaysian, one time I was speaking very heavy Scottish English. Then I went to Wyoming, Casper. I didn't get the American accent. Probably that's a good thing. I was here in America for like a year and a half. My Scottish accent disappeared, and I adapted. Then I went to Japan, and then I was living there for 4 years. Then to Australia. All this time, my mother tried to raise me as a member of the Unification Church. She was always trying to do hundoke in the morning, bowing to True Parents. My father, he didn't want this. He said, "This is stupid. This is ridiculous." But my father would always go off to the business trips, sometimes a month, sometimes 2 months, and then during those times, my house will have all kinds of True Parents' picture all around it. And just selling hundokes in the morning, and it was very weird. I remember begging my father, "Don't go." Right? My father was feeling really happy. I'm like, "Oh, you miss me," Oh, this house becomes weird. We're suddenly forced to be bowed down to these granddad. I thought that was my grandparents, but growing up, I'm half Asian. But then I realized, wait a minute, we're not supposed to have 3 grandparents, right? My mother was like, "No, they're not your grandparents, they're your parents." It confused me. I think while we were in Japan, we went to Japan to. My mother was really tired moving all around the world. My father is a British man, and he's man's man. So moving around the world, my mother would have to find a house, find the school, get the children to school and back and forth, find a community, all of these things every single time. And she was getting really, it was difficult for her. And she also wanted to practice. And then one day, in the meantime in Japan, my aunties are also in the movement. They're really diligent, and one of them are very close to True Parents. And one time she was invited to Hannam-dong. This is True Parents' residence in Korea, Seoul. And she was excited to go, and she was there. True Father told her to talk about her siblings. She has 2 other siblings in the movement, so she was going to talk one, and her father was like, I know that woman, I don't need to, hear about her, talk about your other one. And then she said, how about this one? And he's like, I know her too, I don't want to know her, your other sister. And then she's like, I don't have any other sisters in the movement. And then father said, the one in America, she really wants to come and see me. Why are you stopping her? And so my aunt cried and said sorry, and then immediately called my mom. My mom was having a bit of a difficult situation with my father, on and off. And she came back to Japan, and we really started to, well, my mother was happy coming back to the movement. She managed my father to receive the blessing, holy wine, that was it. He even allowed your parents' picture to be hung in the house all the time. Bad news for me, but still, it was successful, I guess. For me, it didn't really matter. I was traveling all around the world. I didn't have any friends. Because back then we didn't have any smartphones, SNS, nothing. And so we go to a country, hi, and we leave, and it's like, bye, I'll never see you again. The only thing I had was my mom, my dad, and my little brother. And when I go back to Japan, I have my cousins who are all second gens. I didn't know they were second gens. They didn't know they were second gens. Well, they didn't understand the meaning of it, but anyways, until later on in life. We would meet each other in workshops. My mother would send me to Japanese workshops. Nothing worked on me because it was all in Japanese and it was too difficult for me to understand. And I remember asking so many questions, what's going on? Why am I here? What does that mean? What does that mean? And my cousins, mostly male cousins, will gang up on me, be like, just be quiet, man. Don't ask questions. If you ask questions, we have to stay here longer. I was like, all right, that makes sense. So I asked my cousin, do you understand it? He goes, we don't understand it, we don't care. But we finish this, we get money, so just... So I thought, okay, that's cool enough. So that's what I did. We moved to Australia, and that was the turning point in my life. I was in high school, moving on to university. My dad kicked me out when I was 18. He said, this is a tradition of the Stevens. And my dad has never been a traditional man, so I was very surprised. I was like, wow, this tradition is everything you ever taught me. 18, you're out. He told me when I was 17th birthday. I didn't know it was true or not. And then on my 18th birthday, he was like, where's my presents? He goes, huh? Get out. Right? You're on your own today. And I said, sorry, Dad, I thought you were joking. Give me 6 months. And he would look so disappointed. And he's like, all right, I'll give you 6 months. And then I felt so sad. So in 3 months, I got out of the house. And he was so happy, bye, And so I never get homesick for a reason, right? I looked at my mom, I was, Mom, you're Japanese, right? I thought Japanese, we stick together. She goes, listen to your father. I'm like, whoa, not this Japanese. So that was it for me. And I had the freedom. But I wasn't really free. My mom, she was very successful in telling me to follow the church, receive the blessing, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. And it was like a little curse on me. I mean, a protection. And so I didn't do so many bad things in the church. And it wasn't really who I am. I was too. But my parents' relationship got really, really bad. I could even visually see it. And one day my mother took my brother back to Japan, and my father seemed awfully happy. I wasn't that stupid. I felt, oh, this is rough. I hope this patches together. I always went to Japan every year when I was in high school and university to protect my virginity, my mom said. Because in Australia, probably like in America, I don't know, we have very long summer holidays and we usually party. And I would always be sent to my auntie's restaurant business. People working there are church members, and everywhere I go was church members. And so this year I thought I was going to go there. My dad was like, nah, you go to Africa. you go to Africa, have fun, meet your grandparents. I thought that's a great idea. I went. My father's side is a mess. My grandparents are together, but my uncles are all divorced. They're my oldest uncle is 8-time divorced. He's going on his 8th or 9th. Fiance who's about 10 years younger than me right now. I'm like, good on you, man. I said, you know, I don't like the sound of 9, so make it 10, right? The other one is also divorced for only one time, but had multiple mistresses. And I used to have an auntie, but she killed herself with overdose of drugs. So it's a really normal life, normal family that I have on my father's side. And I was always wondering, wow, my dad is pretty faithful, you know, given that. But then I found out from my uncle, who was very drunk that night. He was like, your dad's been cheating on your mom before you were born. And I felt like, wow, I always had a feeling that was true. But my mother never stopped loving my father. And it was really beautiful how she never badmouthed my father about it. And it was very shocking. I called my dad and I was like, Dad, what's going on? Is this true? And he just hung up on me. And then later on, when I confronted him later on, I said, Dad, what's going on? He just said, it's none of your business. You should not be concerned about this. You should not even cry about it. And if you're crying, then, like they say in England, they always say, oh, you're a pufta. I'm sorry if someone is offended by that, but my father would just say, oh, you're a pufta. You know, I didn't know you were a pufta. I always knew you were. Pufta is gay or queer. So he called me, you must be a queer. And I was, you know, brought up by him, so I was like, no, you know, I'm okay. I wasn't okay. It took me a year and a half, 2 years to go. I went through a really rough patch, really rough patch. For me, the world was my mom and dad, especially moving around this world, having no friends at all. Right now, I only have friends in the church. You know, I have no friends outside that I can actually talk to properly. I only had my mom and my dad, and it was all a lie. I'm naive. I'm 17, 19, right? 19, 18, 18, 19. I'm very naive. So when I look back, I probably, if I was older and it happened, I was like, no worries, life goes on. But I was a little young for that. And so I didn't know how to handle it. I was in Perth, Australia. There was no blessed couples, no blessed families. I even tried to open the Divine Principle, read it, threw it out. It didn't work on me because there was nothing about how to patch my whatever void I had at the time. Because the Divine Principle wasn't the reason why, you know, this was, for me, it had nothing to do with it. It was very hard. I went through a series of drugs, alcohol, and all the things that I was not supposed to do, but of course I went through it because of the void that I had. I didn't want to live that lifestyle, so after 2 years of barely going to university and barely living my life, I realized that I just couldn't live like this. I wanted to start my new life. My father would come around with his new girlfriend at the time and be like, what's up, what's going on? I'm like, Dad, I can't handle you. He'd be like, haha, you poofed, and he would leave. Oh, this is your new mom, by the way. And I was like, whoa, like, I can't, wow, is it just me? But this is too much for me. This is too much. My mom didn't know about any of this. So I had to tell her. And she broke down in tears, and that broke me even more. One day it came to me that, you know what, it's because I have this connection with my family, because I love this family too much, I am going to cut this off. This is the only way I knew how to survive at the time of my life. So I traveled to Japan, I talked to my mom, I said, Mom, I have to cut you off my life because this is not healthy for me. And she didn't say anything, and I thought that was, and I knew when I look back today, I really wanted her to stop me, but she didn't. So that was, for me, okay, that's it. I have, as I said, I have a lot of aunties in this movement, and they are crazy, crazy church people, and Japanese crazy ladies. didn't want them to know that I was in Japan, so I didn't call them. But I called my cousin. I thought he was going to be okay because he's my older cousin. He's older than me, brother, and he also has left the church, sort of. And he was also in the hiding as well. So I called him up. Yo, brother, I'm staying in Japan for a few weeks. Can I crash at you? He's like, no worries, come to my house, And then I stayed at his house, went to see my mom, came back. And I knew my auntie was going to find me, so I said I was laying low, enjoying my time in Japan. I was thinking, this is my last time I'll be in Japan. I'll go to Australia, maybe become an Australian citizen. And I was ready to pack and leave. I was already found a house in Sydney. I sold everything that I had in Perth that I was in, ready to leave. And so because I really wanted to cut away, and I really hated my father coming now and then and just saying what's up. So I really wanted to, if I'm going to cut my family away, I'm going to do it 100%. And it was easier back then. Today is GPS and all that. If you type in English, right? But this is 20 years ago. I could disappear pretty good. I could, I had 3 passports back then. I get a new one and disregard the other ones. Done, gone, right? So that was my plan. I sold everything. I didn't tell anybody where I was going to go. I didn't even tell my cousin. And so I was ready to go. But then my auntie, my cousin gave me a phone while he was like, you should have a phone while you're in Japan. I was like, what a nice guy. And then my auntie calls that phone, and I mistakenly just picked it up. But it's just my habit. My auntie's like, don't hang up. I want to see you. I'm like, how do you know I'm here? Well, how do you know this number? What's going on? She didn't say anything. I just want to see you right now. And I'm like, I don't want to see you. Auntie, this is too much. And I know what you're going to do because you're a church member, and I know what you're going to try to do, but I appreciate the offer, but I don't want to see you. And she said that I want to buy you food. I'm a broke student, right? I'm surviving on, I don't know if you know this is a really cheap Indonesian food called Indomie, but I'm surviving on really cheap noodles every single day, 20 cents per pack, right? Barely surviving because I have to pay for tuition and I have to do everything by myself. I didn't want to have any of my parents' support. And I was like, I don't know. What? And he goes, sushi. And I'm like, my Japanese socks kicks in. I'm like, and I'm like, I don't want the cheap, the twirling around sushi. And she goes, no, it's really good sushi. I'm like, you better, okay. If that's the case, then I will go. So she brings me to a really nice restaurant. And I'm really excited. I'm about to, I ordered everything I want. And I'm eating it, and she's holding my hand, and I'm like, I need to talk to you. I was like, Auntie, please don't ruin this. You don't even have to say anything because I know what you want to say. But let's eat, enjoy this moment. As for me, she was a stranger. But I'm grateful that you're buying me food. But this is the last time. Please send my love to. The person who was my mother, I said to her, the person who was my mother, your sister, send my love. And she said, she just said, I love you. And I was like, oof, that's too much. She said, I love you once more. And then on the 3rd time when she said, I love you, I cried and I was in tears. I was sobbing in my heart. I was like, oh, what? What is going on? The sushi is getting ruined. Imagine this old woman with a young man, in a sushi place, and I'm sobbing really hard, and she just waited for me. And I was, of course, now that I look back, I realized that was the thing that I was missing. That love, I was reaffirmed. My mother could not say that to me. My father never, even today, he would say I love you to my children, his grandchildren, but he never said I love you or even hugged me until this day. And I was really surprised to hear it from her, my aunt, who's not my mom. And that really, I feel that really moved me. And she's like, she really listened to what I said, and she wanted me to go to attend the workshop. And I honestly just said to her, I said, I honestly don't know why I cried, but I don't want to hear about a workshop from you. I've been to your workshops. It never worked. It's something very, it's just never worked, I said to her. Divine Principle workshops, this is not me. That's your religion, that's not mine. Divine Principle has never moved my heart. I don't care about the truth, I told her. You know, and I really don't care about the blessing. Blessing doesn't work. Auntie, you don't even live with your husband. Why are you saying blessing is great? My other aunties, their relationship is bad as well. Why can you say to me the blessing is great when I can clearly see your blessing is, I don't even know why you're together. You can't sit there and tell me that blessing is great when you don't, I don't see it from you. And of course she, you know, kept quiet. Of course later on I apologized for what I said. I was very desperate because I know where this was going. And I really said, I don't want to go, I don't want to do this. But she said, I really want to, I want you to go to this workshop. And even if you don't like it, if you don't like it and if you choose not to follow or whatever, if this doesn't inspire you, then I will never say anything about the church. I will say nothing about the movement, and I won't even tell you to receive the blessing. But you will still be my son. And I thought that was a good deal. I thought that was a great deal because I had no community. I had no family at that moment. I was on my own, and I don't like that. And so I even said, so I bring a girl, a random girl, and you're gonna love her like your daughter. I can marry whoever I want. She goes, yes, you can. I said, I need that in paper. Because I know you're going to say later, I didn't say that. Put it in. So I made her write it. She said, is this necessary? I'm like, it's absolutely necessary. She wrote it, she signed it, I signed it. I kept that paper. I kept that for like 3 years at least. I kept it in my pocket. I was like, all right, where do you want me to go? And she said that, please go to South Korea, to the CheonPyeong training center for 40 days. And I was like, oh, Korea, where was that again? Right? And she explained where it was. And I was like, okay, no worries, let's go, let's do it. When do I go? And she takes out my passport. And I was like, wait, why do you have my passport? And she already had my luggage, which my cousin brought. It turns out that she already knew that where my cousin lived. And she had a hunch. This woman has a great spiritual senses. She knew that I was in the country, called my cousin, her son, and said, threatened him to cough me up. And he gladly coughed me up. Even gave my passport to her. And your plane ticket is tonight.
Oh my God.
You're going to CheonPyeong tonight. I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is illegal, but all right, I'll do this. I'll do this for you. My cousin, about 3-4 years later, he kind of disappeared too. He disappeared in the world. He went to Switzerland and he disappeared completely. No one knew where he was except for me. One day, when he opened the door, his mom was standing in front of him. And he doesn't know why. Later on, I told him, hey, it was me. But it's okay. He received the blessing too. He's living for the sake of true parents right now, so it's all good. So I went to Korea. I got on a bus full of Japanese members, right? I don't know if you know, there's some buses are organized by Japanese travel agencies from the movement, and it's filled with Japanese ladies wearing a white t-shirt. I didn't know that, so I got on the bus and it was like full of Japanese ladies. I was like, wow, Korea, amazing. All these Japanese ladies with the white t-shirts. Pretty weird, but no worries, man. And it was just 40 days I'm out, right? And then I sat next to this lady and I saw her and it was my mom.
Wow.
And I was like, what? What's going on? And she's like, your auntie called me and said that quit your job. Quit everything you do. If you don't, quit everything if you really want to save your son. If you don't, then you'll never see him again. So my mother was a teacher. She quit that night. She quit everything, and then she got on the plane and got on that bus. She didn't know I was going to be on that bus as well. And I thought, wow, my auntie, she's an amazing woman. My mother's not going to control me. There's another brother, an older brother I had in the movement that I really come to respect. He was also a Jacob's child, and he also, I come to grow, and every summer I went to this Japanese restaurant. He was working there, and he was an amazing older brother, even in the movement. I would drink, smoke, talk about girls in front of him. He would not even say anything, just embrace me and buy me food. Even if I talk bad about your parents, he would not say anything, but really care for me, and I naturally just respected him. And even I went through all his stuff, thinking that surely he has pornographic magazines in his room, because I was in an all boys school in Australia, and I thought, you know, all men are same. But this guy didn't have anything. I thought he was a little gay at one point, but he was a really respected man, and I really respected him for all my life. And whatever he would say, I knew I was wrong. So I would listen to that kind of older brother I had. Not my cousin, I don't care about him, but this older brother in this church. And he was sitting right in front of me in that bus. And I was like, Hyung, what are you doing here? Like, all people, what are you doing here? In this bus, into this workshop, all right? And he's like, oh yeah, your auntie called me, you know? She called me 1 week ago. And she was saying that she would pay my ticket, she'll pay my 40-day workshop fee, she'll pay everything that I need if I agreed to get on the bus, on this plane, on this day, in this bus, to go to CheonPyeong on this day.
Wow.
And he said yes. And she said, Ryuichi is going to be on that bus that day. I want you to take care of him and love him. And he said, of course. And so he was there on that bus. My 40 days, I tried to run away. My older brother would grab me by the neck. He's a black belt in karate. I would smoke and he would slap me in the face. But I would respect him. I'm like, oh, sorry. I would talk to girls and he would kick me in the bum. I would fly about 3-4 feet and stand up and like, Hyung, what did I do wrong? And he's like, this is a holy ground, you don't do that. And this is how I learned my 40 days. It sounds like it's an amazing turns of an event. But in the background later on I heard my aunties, three of my aunties, they did 120 days of night vigil, devotion, and fasting relays because she had a dream of me, of being a very important figure in the family. All her children, all the second gens were failing of being a second gen. They didn't know who they were. They were not going to church. But somehow they thought that getting me back on track would be a turning point in the family. She had that kind of dream. But I was the worst one in the whole family, right? I was the worst one. So they offered that devotion. And she was on her 1 week fasting when she met me on that day. And during that 40 days, they never went to sleep and did night vigils every single day so that I will have a change of heart. Needless to say, that first 40 days for me was crazy because CheonPyeong was crazy, The Koreans were crazy. Everybody was crazy. I really didn't like the place. But was one thing was for sure is that I was so glad I wasn't drinking anymore. I wasn't doing drugs anymore. And I really appreciated that lifestyle. And I really wanted to become a better person. And so I did another 40 days. And this another 40 days, it was still crazy, still weird. It was still a crazy place in the church. Didn't understand what was going on, but I really liked, I think I met with God at that time. And I prayed hard and offered devotion. And I wanted to change my life. And God spoke to me to offer devotion. A 1-year devotion at CheonPyeong Training Center. And that's how I started my life there. I didn't offer any devotions to be a member of this movement. I think I was guided, not by, yes, by Heavenly Parent, but through the devotions and prayers that my aunties have offered. So that's, yeah, so it's really related to the training center, and that's also my life that I spent in the training center as well. We're not giving up on our children. Now I'm a parent, and I have children, and I realize that if I don't offer devotion for my children, they will just follow whatever, because the society is so strong, and the world outside and Satan is really strong. But the devotion that I offer as a parent is going to somehow bring them back in, not to follow the church, but to really, so my children can truly understand who they are, not as a blessed child, but as a child of God. And this is something that I really felt and learned through my aunties, through their devotion, through their prayers. So this is what I wanted to share. Prayers and devotion. I come to CheonPyeong and I preach about it, talk about it, but it does work. And I want to remind our elders, you know it works. So please continue to offer devotion, but even more for our children, because once that condition is met, then everything will come together. Thank you very much.